And you're back with three sides to every story on the CRP. Hey, I'm your host, Cadillac. And tonight we're talking about none other than Epstein and the pedophile ring, the pedophile island, the murder, suicide, the I'm not sure what's going on. Does anybody know what the hell's going on? And I'm here with Anthony Scott Pyatt and Miguel Iterati, and we are sounding off and talking about this. So what's going on, guys? What are we going to start with?
Well, hey, guys. Good to see you, Miguel. Just want to shout out real quick to Miguel and you, Chad, and then I'm going to turn over to Miguel and let him start it off.
So go ahead, Miguel.
My first word there was guilty, and I look at Epstein, and I seriously think, I'm not a court of law. I'm not even actually a peer of this guy's, right? Like tax bracket wise or whatever. I wouldn't consider myself anything like that. But, I think he's guilty. I think whenever I see things like this where the elite is sort of abusing their privileges in many different ways here, right? Because we've got his ability to procure and all that ugliness as well. And then as well as like the whole suppression of it, where other people involved might be trying to hide it, or at least friends of his are trying to keep him out of jail or whatever all the other conspiracies are, right? So whenever I hear about the elite taking privileges like that, I always think guilty right off the bat. It's my friend. It's almost like contrary to the American way. But yeah, I do believe that, what we're looking at there is probably something that's going to be worse than we suspected, and probably something that we're never really going to get to the bottom of. That is going to get suppressed at some point where we won't even know the depths of what went on there.
So, Scott, your retort to that, then I'm not asking for a retort, but maybe just an opening statement on where you're at with this. Miguel pretty much is that, look, this guy's guilty. He's a scumbag. He's used wealth and political power and pull to cover all of these years. What have you got to say about that?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and I know it makes for a better show if I just disagree. Miguel, you have no idea what you're talking about, you buffoon. I can't do that though, because he is guilty. I think this show, though, we're getting ready to go a little deeper than whether he was guilty or not. Not only was he guilty, and that's not just an opinion, that's also respecting innocent until proven guilty, because don't forget, he's already been convicted once of something similar to this, right? Yes. Now, there is a twist to that. The prosecutor let him off, and I believe it was from Florida, didn't let him off, but just gave him this super light sentence that was basically nothing. He could work 12 hours a day at his office or something weird like that. He was on basically work release, and it was a short sentence in the whole bit. And let's twist this up a little bit with people that are still alive. When somebody dies, whether they're a loved one or not, the tragedy is not that they died. The tragedy is for those that are still here, right? Those that have to go on with the loss and whatnot. That's the true tragedy. We're not benefiting from the things that the person died was able to do and bring the good to the world. But for them, it's no longer a tragedy. They're dead. What we need to be concerned with is the people that are still alive at that point. And that's both a positive and a negative. What I mean to say is the prosecutor that let Epstein off lightly was hired by Trump. Now, I don't want to come on, and people that have watched this show know that I lean left. This is not just it's all of them. Pedophiles wrong. This is not politics. This is not you like the New England Patriots and I like the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm going to argue for the Steelers no matter what. It's not that. What I will say, though, is a couple of things. I haven't seen anything where Clinton was really involved with the sex stuff, and if he is, lock Bill Clinton up. I do know that Epstein has a painting of Clinton in his home where he's wearing Monica Lewinsky's blue dress. It's kind of a funny thing, but obviously they're not best buds. He has a very derogatory painting. Stephen Hawking, I'll point out, was also taken to the island and showed a good time by Epstein. So, and I love Stephen Hawking. So, but when you talk about Trump, yes, I've seen the video of it and everything. Unless it's
wow,
complete, yeah. So, but a lot of famous people were, is the point. A lot of famous people.
Okay.
So just because Clinton was and Stephen Hawking was and whatnot, doesn't mean they all partook the same way that a guy like Trump did. Because let's not forget, it is confirmed that Trump and Epstein held a party with 28 young women that they flew in from around the country and probably the world at Mar-a-Lago. You know how many people attended that party? 30 people, 28 women,
Wow.
Donald Trump, and Jeffrey Epstein. That's who was there. That's it. They limited that. So the staff was like, how many people should we plan on? Thinking it would be hundreds. You're bringing in 30 beautiful women for some quote unquote fashion show and this and that. It was a goddamn orgy. So that's my take on the political side of it. As for now, we know Trump is implicated here. As far as the suicide goes, I'm not really into the conspiracy side of that, but I'll say it was suicide. Whether it was suicide versus murder, I think it was probably murder, but with a twist. I think he killed himself, but the murderous part is that they took him off suicide watch 12 days before he killed himself. They should have never taken him off suicide watch. He'd already tried it once. So
yeah. Let me climb right in here then and suggest a couple of things. Okay, first of all, here's what we know about Suicide Watch. Since this is kind of the title of the show, and I know it's going to go further than that, but we have to start with that. So on Suicide Watch, if you're on Suicide Watch, you do not call home and have recorded conversations with people that says they're trying to kill me. I don't want to die. If they say that I killed myself, that's a lie. I'm not trying to kill myself. I'm on Suicide Watch, which on Suicide Watch, by the way, I don't know that you even get a call, but attorneys and things like that you have privilege to. There are 15. There are 15 steps that a prison has to take when a prisoner is on Suicide Watch. The final one of those steps, so the final step in making sure that a prisoner doesn't kill themselves, is that that someone is looking at the prisoner, because they're in basically a glass compartment, and they're looking at the prisoner pretty much 24/7, and the prisoner is naked with sort of this unterrible, almost a rubber cloth with a hole, so that there's really absolutely no way you could use anything in the room to commit suicide, including most of the walls are padded with rubber, so your head against the wall or anything like that.
Exists, though? Are you saying that recording exists?
Well, here's the problem. There is no recording. Suddenly, all of the recordings disappeared from the day that he committed suicide, and all that you hear is supposedly, and this is just what I've heard so far. Some of this can turn out to be conspiratorial nonsense, obviously, but some of it is true. You can hear them saying, "Breathe, Mr. Epstein, breathe, breathe. You gotta breathe. Come back to us." And as if they're trying to revive him, but for some odd reason, the video goes blank about 15 minutes before that starts. So Miguel, I'll give you some time to talk about this and tell us what your thoughts are moving on from there. Okay, so it's all yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, the suicide thing, like I said, I don't believe it. Everything you guys have pointed out, it's hard to commit suicide as well. If you go to jail, even if you're not on Suicide Watch, they take your shoelaces. They take, if you're wearing a sweatpant, they'll cut the waistband out of it so you can't use any of that stuff. And that's not Suicide Watch. That's regular jail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't want anyone dying in jail. If you've tried it, then you get a Suicide Watch, which is this hyper thing. So it's like he should have been able to kill himself one way or another. The Suicide Watch, I think, is irrelevant. It muddies the waters there. There's either one or two things happen. Either, somebody. Yeah, my fervent belief is that in such way suicide himself, but he did kill himself. Somebody had to give him a rope or something to hang himself with. They say that pieces of his neck was broken or whatever, and they facilitated it for him. But he came to his own conclusion because he's sitting in jail, not in the $70 million mansion that he asked to be house arrested in, right? He's sitting in jail, and all of a sudden, those friends that used to take his phone calls and be like, yeah, we'll meet you at the island in a couple of years or whatever, no longer calling him back. And he does look like the fall guy. And he looks like the guy who's going to go down for this. And if he knows he's around power players, he is going to get, if he starts speaking what he knows or, other involvement and stuff, he's going to get really ridiculed, like, in the next level or more information on this. So with the pressure of that, you could see him coming to the conclusion of like, it's almost like an assisted suicide. It's like, yeah, it's going to really get bad for you. You should consider this kind of thing. I think that really plays heavily into it, because what you're talking about that has to happen in a guy like Epstein, to me, and I read a lot about this recently on the internet, so this is not my own theory by any ways. Other good people have said it. But the bottom line is you're talking about a complete ego change. Talking about a guy who's narcissistic and doesn't want to die, and is doing everything he can, even after getting busted, to keep his lifestyle and keep going. And then all of a sudden now he's suicidal. How do you go from one extreme to the other? The type of pressure that can come with full disclosure in this type of situation.
And I have a fact I want to share that backs up what you're saying, Miguel. And I'm reading this on GQ magazine. And this is pretty telling to what you're saying. The very day before his death, a court unsealed 2,000 pages of legal documents that implicated not only Epstein, but his prominent friends. As you were just saying, his friends aren't taking his calls, because the day before, 2,000 pages exposed his friends, including new names, including New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson. I believe he's a Democrat as well. So I say anybody that was complicit in this situation, and that's Democrat, Republican, non-political, scientists. Let's unbury Stephen Hawking and throw him in jail. No, I'm kidding. But anybody that's involved. Now, I don't think everybody that knew him or partied with him knew the full extent, right? Just because you've got some pretty women around doesn't indicate necessarily that they were always underage, or that they were in the sex trade, or at least in some sort of, was he kidnapping women that were overage? We don't know yet. But what I'm saying is, I'm not mad at a guy, even like a Stephen Hawking, who's going to a hell of a fun island and having a party, if he doesn't know that these things are happening. If he knew, then damn them all. Damn them all if they knew. And the ones that knew are in the highest office of this country as we speak.
Okay, so here's my question then. Let's say that it was a suicide, because that's the official report, and we don't have any way to prove otherwise. So let's say that it was a suicide, whether assisted or otherwise. Let's talk about really what the bigger implications are here. Who's next? So in other words, we know that this guy's had a sex ring for, I don't know, decades, obviously. He's made his fortune off of it, and he's basically a high-level pimp. He becomes a billionaire by getting in with the right people at the right time, and finding their weaknesses, as it were. That's the way I've heard it put. And then, slowly being drafted into this sort of, I don't want to use the word cult, because that's really way too conspiratorial from my views. But in some way, they were being lured into a place where perhaps they had sex with girls that they didn't know were underage. Now, that maybe is not quite the argument, depending on what the girl looked like. And I mean, I'm sure there's a million arguments to be made on that. But what you can make an argument on is this. If they knew, then that makes them a scumbag. We all agree on that, right across the board. So what I want to know is this. The 2,000-page document that was uncovered that was in Florida that was subdued, and then they buried those documents, and they're wanting to posthumously dig those back up. They're wanting to posthumously convict Epstein so that they can go in and look at other situations and other people. Where are we at with all that, guys? I'll bring this back to everybody, and then who wants to take first shot at that part?
I mean, I can go real quick, and
because this is a big
over to Miguel.
It's big.
Follow it. Follow all the evidence and burn them all down. Every single person that was implicit in it. Everybody deserves question. If they're implicated at all, we need to get to the bottom of it. And those that are found culpable of it, burn them down. Hit them with the books. I mean, throw every law book we've got at them. And I hope they land in a similar jail cell as Epstein. But plain and simple.
Miguel, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things here that aren't getting said that, concern me, that they worry me. And it is very much has to do because, I think, the problem here is that, Donald Trump, he's a Republican and Bill Richardson's a Democrat, but they both were friends with this guy. And then you got, Stephen Hawking, how lethal could he be at a sex party if he could only do one thing?
For the record, I've seen a documentary and it works.
Absolutely it does.
My point of it is, and that, trying to be light there a little bit, but the point is, I could very much see him also hosting scientists and people like that and not have the sex party along with that,
Right.
And part of that is cover. Part of that is, he maybe had some other interest besides the 15-year-old girls. You know what I mean? It's like that consumed a great part of his life and ruined it at the end, right? But there were other things. So, you got to, I do think you got to sort of do an investigation that lets you find out the real truth. And then that's where it gets shady to me, because that's where I think I see this as very simple. The war that's going on right now, even, racism, which we've had on other topics and things like that, at the end of the day, everyone on these podcasts, even if we've had differing opinions and all sorts of stuff, we're all more or less the same tax brackets. The real problem is the elite versus the haves and the have-nots. That's more or less the real problem. And here we have, these guys that crosses party lines and stuff like that. Where you know why? Because it's nothing to do with that. It doesn't have anything to do with that. Here's a guy that, his will has him chopping up $570 billion. So he's a little over halfway to a billionaire, but everybody calls him a billionaire. He's not a billionaire, But here's a guy who was involved, and I'll tell you a story. This is a long time ago. I wasn't married at the time, and I was with a group, and I did a few events with this group, and 4, 5, 6 events, and afterwards we would all go our merry way and separate and stuff like that. One day I found myself in one of those towns, and I went to the local nightclub, the strip joint, afterwards, after the event, and I was used to going alone. And when I walked in, there were the guys I did the show with. So, Epstein maybe had that kind of moment with Donald Trump. You know what I mean? It's like, he's like, oh, he saw the way he checked her out. Oh, he likes young girls too. Meanwhile, the other guys, it's like, yeah, they're around. I bring them surfing or whatever it is. Let me ask you guys a question. Pedophilia being obviously something nobody here is going to be, we're not going to stray too far from the same, it's evil and wrong and everything you want. But this wouldn't be much more wrong if these were all 18-year-old down and out girls that, didn't have any luck in life at all, and that they were picking up in the street for a few $100 and taking them here. The only thing is the legality of being 18.
Yeah,
but,
so
18 years old, it's still just as violent, just as wrong. Why? because it's the elite. It's the elite with the power to do all of this, and that's what makes it all very, very different and dangerous.
Yeah. So here's my retort to that. Or it's not even a retort. It's just kind of an agreement with you on that. Is that, you know, even if these girls were 18 years old or whatever the legal age is wherever they were at, which differs from state to state as well as it does from nation to nation. So let's say that on the island that they were at, that some age was legal, but these guys are, 55-year-old men who these girls would obviously not be dating had they not have said, hey, we're going to pay you $1,000, which is more money than you might have ever seen in your life. Because if the stories that I've heard so far are true, and again, I don't know that they're true. I'm just saying these are some of the things that are out there that we're trying to work with right now and figure out what is and is not true, because no one knows the truth yet. So these are things being thrown around. At one point, there were Epstein was hiring so many girls off of the surrounding areas, out of slum areas, out of the absolute most impoverished areas you could have, because that's where he found he could get the youngest girls for any amount of money that he wanted. So it's not just that these guys that they wanted to have sex with a girl who was 17 years old, for whatever taboo that gives them. And it's not even just that, hey, you know what? These girls were actually legal and they just wanted them to look young. They actually went out of their way, if what I am told is true and what I've read and heard is true, they went out of their way to make sure that they were getting the youngest girls they could find. Now that becomes absolute repulsiveness, and the kind of repugnance that concerns is something very, very different than what we were beginning to talk about. I took a little bit of time there. Scotty, do you want to reply to that?
Well, I
can't seem to get you to the big side here. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it. I do want to reply to what you were saying, and we have a viewer that's mentioned online. Shout out to Michelle Diane. But she brings up a point. Her direct question is, were they women or teen girls? And I want to say that it is a good question, and that's what you were bringing up. And I want to make sure that we don't fall into the trap that some media has and some folks have, okay? Because when these girls are under 17 years of age, they're not women, they're girls. And Epstein and Trump did not have sex with 17-year-old girls. They raped 17-year-old girls, okay? These are rapes.
Because, okay, so Scotty, let me make sure that I'm clarifying that and that I understand what you're saying. They are rapes because this is not a situation where any of these girls would have said, boy, that guy's really attractive and I want to have sex with him. They did it simply because of their power and control.
No.
That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying.
I think what I'm saying is
so you're not even saying it was rape due to status or drugging. So can you
just by virtue of them being underage?
I'm saying it's of us three old farts right here go out and seduce a 17-year-old woman and she says, yes, I want to have sex with you. It's rape because she's 17.
Right. Okay, I understand what you're saying. I wanted to make sure we were qualifying that and which part of that we were on. Because nobody wants to be a rape apologist either.
When a girl's 14, 15, yes, and they're coerced by money or power or all the other things that Epstein did. He did coerce them into this. They were recruited. Epstein had a girlfriend for a few years. She then was no longer his girlfriend, just his pimp assistant, And she vetted these people, and he had 3 massages a day because he had to orgasm 3 times a day. Or, that was his thing. This was Epstein's thing. And so she brought in girls, sometimes women, sometimes girls. And I'm saying that no, when you take a poor girl in Florida or New York City or wherever, and you offer her all this different money for a beauty contest, and then she gets down there and it's implied and inferred that sex is expected and whatnot, and she goes along with the program. It doesn't have to be forcible rape. Rape is rape is rape. They're rapists.
Right. So we're running on this, so I'm gonna jump in real quick. So Miguel, basically what you and Scotty were both just saying was this then. Even if these girls would have been 20, realistically it would have been rape, right?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things, and you got to be careful here because what you're delving into. Remember when Bill Clinton sat and looked in the TV camera and said, "I've not had relations with that woman"?
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, is what he said.
And that's because he considered, he wanted to, for the purpose of that conversation, like a lawyer, define a relation as like, no, I didn't woo her, buy her drinks, take her out, and, any of that stuff. So it was just like a fly-by-night thing. And that's why he could actually look and feel himself like he's telling the truth. Like maybe even pass a lie detector test,
Right,
but,
right.
But Bill, so this is what these guys do. They're lawyers and they all work on semantics. So what you're looking at is the rape for a 17-year-old is strictly because of the legal statute of them being underage. Right. Now, could that be a 16 or 17-year-old who's had a life that's made them very savvy at that point where they could actually be capable of a relationship or, using their sexuality and stuff like that? Yeah, you sometimes run into that sort of stuff. But still, it doesn't make it any less legal for Epstein to be involved in that at all. You know what I mean? So now that's just legality. Then when you get to what's right, when you're talking about 40-something-year-olds, there comes a point where, I don't know, you could be, maybe by the time 28, 30, I could see them maybe being attracted to an older guy. And they, but you're talking, but 20, 18, 19, at some point, there's some line there that makes it kind of weird, right? Now, weird isn't wrong, but the whole abuse of, oh, you really need money. Well, you could do this for money, and the whole setup, like he was mentioning his assistant girlfriend. I mean, that woman is free right now. I forget exactly what her name is, but she's living in Florida, and her current boyfriend is 20 years younger than her. He's a relatively wealthy person from some tech startup or whatever, and he's putting her up, and she hasn't been seen in a couple of years, haven't left the house or anything like that. What?
Heard she moved back to England. Back to England, Miguel.
That could be too. But that to me, unfortunately, the investigation should continue because if there was that much of an enabler where she's like, hey, Jeff, I couldn't get 8, but I got 6 really good ones. You know what I mean? It's like if that was the interaction on a day-to-day basis of procuring somebody to beat them off 3 times a day or whatever, the whole sordid, ugly thing. If that was her relationship, then she really needs some jail time. It really it's calling for her.
Okay, so let me cut in again, guys, and try and move this along to the next part of this then. So let's get to the part where we talk about where are the bodies and who knows and who put the bodies there. Scott, do you have an opinion on that? Do you have a conspiratorial opinion? And as far as I'm concerned at this point, everything is on the table and nothing seems too conspiratorial other than maybe lizard people are under the White House controlling their brains or something. But I mean, short of something completely nuts, I don't see any kind of conspiracy theory being too shy. So
do you want to go, Miguel? Do you remember Pizzagate?
Yes.
Now, Pizzagate was debunked, right? So now you go out, run out on the internet, and everybody says, "Oh, it was fake news," and all these popular hash terms right now. So now somebody brings that up, and everybody says, "Oh, that's fake news," and you get poo-pooed or whatever. Isn't that some of these same players?
Scotty?
I don't believe so. I mean, I forget the fella.
Yeah, they pulled Clinton in.
Yeah, well, it's some of the same people they're trying to victimize and shame, but it's not necessarily the same people pushing the conspiracy theory. There was a
No, that's what I mean. But it's the same people coming up with a similar charge. Here was sex with minors,
right?
And Clinton was involved in some and now all of a sudden it comes up. We got another major case of sex with minors, and they're off to the sides, bill again.
So can I ask this, guys? Was there some truth to the madness of Pizzagate, and was Pizzagate a sort of an offshoot of what happened here, or is Pizzagate absolute nonsense? And you want to hit that, Scotty? Go ahead.
Pizzagate was it's demonstrably false.
Okay.
Total smear job.
I don't know anything about Pizzagate.
Okay, well, here's the thing, Chad. Here's the thing. Pizzagate story. It
gets weird. It's weird. There's a restaurant in Washington. People got shot and stuff like that. But it had to do with a high-level pedophilia ring at the highest level. But
here's the thing.
That's the only thing I know about.
Was that they were keeping girls in the basement of the pizza joint. Okay, that was the main charge. The pizza joint does not and never has had a basement.
Well, if that pretty much ruins that.
That tells you how made up the whole bullshit was. The whole thing was supposed to have happened. You go into the pizza place, you knock the secret knock, you get let into the basement, and here's all these underage girls. They don't have a goddamn basement. The whole thing was bullshit.
So, okay. So let's move on from that then. So having said that, where does the conspiracy lie then, Miguel? Do you believe that this is something much larger?
Pizzagate did get summed up that way, but the root of it is a pedophile ring. And the root of it, and it was bigger than just one restaurant and things like that. But again, the investigation stopped. Maybe there is no investigation. Maybe it is all made up. But I'm saying, that seems, the closure for that seemed to be very much, it's fake news and that's it. And that's all you get. And I don't know how satisfied I am with the closure of all those things. If they're stupid, and if I'm an idiot for asking, then I'm okay with that. But I'll ask the dumb question. The dumb question is
fair.
Here again, we've got a high. It's almost the same thing happening again. We had a high level ring.
Yeah.
That sort of got a little bit of light put on it, and all of a sudden it was like, no, nothing to see here. Fake news. Now all of a sudden here, Epstein dies. And if Rizal, whatever her name is, and everybody else isn't investigated, we don't get put through here, then we have basically the same closure. Epstein was a pedophile. It goes no further than that. There's no other charges or nobody else.
Well,
there's a cover up.
Okay, but but let me interrupt. Here's the problem with that. Epstein died and is a proven pedophile now. We know this to be the case. And so no matter who poo-poos on this, we also know a couple other things about Epstein that are absolute facts. For one thing, Donald Trump said, and I'm not just picking on Trump, but for starters, Donald Trump said several years ago, yeah, I know Jeff Epstein. He's a good guy. He likes girls, maybe young girls sometimes. And he actually has pictures with his arm around Epstein, and we've all seen those on the net. Is that fake news? Did they Photoshop all of that? Or where's the legitimacy in that? Scott, take that for me.
And that's where I want to get at. While I don't discount the fact that perhaps Bill Clinton is a horny bastard and perhaps he has something to do with this, I've seen no actionable evidence. And Pizzagate, I dismiss out of hand. And here's the difference. Here's why I can dismiss, Miguel. Here's why I can dismiss Pizzagate, and I can't dismiss Epstein, and I can't dismiss the Asian parlor where Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, got arrested and that Trump frequents as well. The reason you can't dismiss those is because there have been arrests, there have been court cases, and there have been convictions. Epstein has been convicted of these crimes. Now he's up on new charges.
But if we wanted to talk conspiracy, which is kind of what we're talking about, and all we've got to lay out is, but so here's my point though, is with Bill Clinton, and I stated it earlier, this is not about black, white, or whatever. This is the elite versus the non-elite.
Yeah, rich versus
Bill Clinton is the elite of the elite.
Yep.
And so is there going to be a reaction to protect him? Is that what we're seeing? Because that's how I look at it.
I almost hope he's guilty. And you guys know, how I vote.
And here's the other point.
I don't think that means there's a victim. So let me make that.
Hold on. Let Miguel finish.
One little additional point, because it'll give you something else to come back on if you need to. But
go ahead.
If we're talking about an older man and a man of power abusing of a younger woman because of his power and using that to his benefits and stuff like that, that is the Lewinsky situation to a T. She was an intern. She was in her, she was 20-something years younger than him already and stuff like that. So I think we showed that Bill likes young girls too, Now,
but there are young girls who like Bill too. So does that excuse him?
In the legal terms, no. But they're young women. In that terms, Monica Lewinsky, I think nowadays would probably tell you that as a young girl, she was confused. She was confused and daunted by the power and this, that, and the other thing. And what she confused for love or lust or whatever it wasn't really that. I think that's kind of the way it plays out there, where a younger girl can be confused by an older man who can be very impressive.
Does that make her a victim, and does that make him some type of a rapist? Does that make him a bad person? Or does it just make him a guy who likes younger girls?
Yeah, legally,
there's the problem.
Legally, he's not going to jail for it, right? So it's not legally, there's no accountability, and adultery isn't a crime, right? So, and Hillary forgave him, right? So he's scot-free. But I think that the abuse of power in that type of situation that he had over that girl and stuff like that, and then his abuse of the system to come out scot-free and to really legitimately come out and say, I didn't have sexual relations with that woman, looking at a camera in front of the, to be able to do that hints to me at real elite and real power. And again, there's trails of bodies that go back to Missouri with him and Hillary and stuff like that. And, it doesn't surprise me that the system is reacting to protect itself. And it would be an interesting flex of power if Trump was the guy who went down while Bill didn't. Say they were both guilty. Say I'm right and they're all guilty, right? Because they're all guilty. But how far does it go? Who goes down? Who doesn't go down? Does Epstein's assistant go down? Does Igor Zinoviev go down?
Right. Okay, yeah, that's a great question. We can get to that one maybe on our next episode. So, Scotty, let me kind of have you sum up everything with this. Then
sounds good.
I want to hear you talk about how systematic power, in and of itself, can be either an aphrodisiac or a seduction that could actually be considered rape, simply because of the quality of aphrodisiac that it is to a 22-year-old girl who wants to make it in the movie business, and she's willing to go about whatever she has to do that. So are some of the women that were with Epstein, even though they were of age, they were of sound mind and body, were they still raped as well? Even if they were, not legally, obviously, but were they in an academic sense?
And
Go ahead, Scotty, and take it away. And I know you got a lot to say.
I'm not sure, and that's a tough question. I want to go back to something I said earlier to make sure that people understand that I don't want Clinton to have hurt anybody. I don't want to. I don't either. There's a victim. I'm saying if there is a victim, I want him held accountable. I just wanted to clarify that. The second part I want to clarify is that I do not believe like a Lewinsky was raped, and I don't believe that the girls, if they're overage, Is it coercive? Is it slimy? Is it morally wrong? Probably. I don't want to call it rape, though.
It's not illegal. It's not illegal. You're absolutely
not
right.
illegal. And I want to say that I'm pro-sex worker. So where it might be illegal to hire prostitutes at Mar-a-Lago and some of these other places, and I don't know if those 28 women were prostitutes or not. I'm saying there were 28 women, Trump and Epstein at the party, and it turned into a sex party. But what I want to say is I am pro-sex worker. So if somebody of legal age wants to do that, I wish it were legal. In some states it is. In Nevada it is. And I have no problem with sex workers. I think we can be safe and healthy if we do that in a legal way. One thing I want to point out, though, is you mentioned Hillary Clinton staying with Bill Clinton after the Lewinsky thing. My girlfriend Ashley's been watching a documentary called The Family, and I think there's a whole lot of important stuff with the family that we should check into. It's basically a political power cult, if you will. Check out The Family. We can.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, folks. I'm not sure what happened there. Sometimes we have funny little problems here. There's a lot of storms and stuff that are going on right now in the Midwest as well as in Central America where Miguel's at, and kind of we fade in and out once in a while. I apologize for that. We're back. I don't know if I'm going to get Scott back or not, and I really wanted to hear what he had to say there. Miguel, can you hear me okay? It's the two of us on now.
Okay, so, I got Scott too. I got Scott, and Scott was wrapping up here. I was getting ready to take over and close for you.
Yeah, I lost Scott completely. Do you have
him
there?
Here, Miguel?
Yeah, I'm gonna communicate.
Okay, you guys go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead and close. You got
basically done. I won't even wrap up for Chad since he can't hear me, but there is, in The Family, it's a Christian organization. They sent Kim Davis overseas, the Kentucky recorder or whatever she was that wouldn't certify not a recorder, but wouldn't certify the marriage license for the gay folks. The family has got a lot of money. They sent her overseas. Basically, they've been involved with presidents throughout, and they don't get divorced. So Hillary and Bill were sort of counseled by The Family. Interesting documentary. Watch that. We can pick it up at a later time. But I actually think that does have something to do with some of this, because then the guys know they can do this dirty stuff and have these sex parties, and they're still not going to lose their political position, and the family's going to help their wife to understand that they need to stay with them. You want to talk about conspiracy theories and New World Order type stuff. The Family's where that's at. This may be another conversation, but hey, Miguel, it's been a good show. I appreciate that. Tell Chad I appreciate a good show. And that'll wrap it up from my end.
Yep, I appreciate everything there, Anthony. Scott Pye, it has been a good show. We've been presenting three sides to every story here at the Cage Rage Podcast. Chad was playing moderator for us here, and we're just trying to bring up a bunch of different points on this Epstein murder, suicide, conspiracy theory stuff out there. I think a lot of interesting points. Me and Anthony didn't prep or talk at any point before this, so we just went into it cold. And, we had a couple of agreements. I know I learned some stuff. I hope everybody out there did too. And if you can, hit like and subscribe. We'll be back. And on Wednesday, we'll probably be pulling in another version of this featuring Devin Miller with another different take. And I know that he is also a fact-driven person with a lot of links to a lot of material that he's bringing to the conversation. So check for that back on Wednesday, and we're signing off here at the CRP.
Hey, Miguel, have you still got me on there, or can you hear me at all? So this is Chadlack with the CRP. Sorry about that. We had some issues. I'm not sure what happened. Welcome to the world of DSL satellite television and everything else out here in the sticks. Sorry about that. We hope you enjoyed the content. Please comment. Please subscribe. We're going to get this edited and put back up on Facebook and everything else for you very soon. Go to our website. Go to our which is cageragepodcast.com. Go to YouTube, thecageragepodcast.com. Comment, share, like, subscribe. Tell everybody about it. And I know there's going to be a lot of blowback on this in every way, and that's okay. We expect it. And you know, we're anxious to hear what everybody's got to say. So comment, contend, and be part of the project. Thank you.